The AP will do it wrong, so we're here to do it right. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert here with our Week 7 GE Top 25 poll. Our official set of rankings coming directly from our channel to you. And look, we just experienced one of the most historic, one of the most wild Saturdays in college football history. I absolutely will say that. A weekend where we saw 7 top 25 teams go down, including 4 top 10 teams. The number 1, the number 4, the number 9, 10, and 11 ranked teams in the country all went down. An absolutely unbelievable weekend that really catastrophically changed the rankings, not just from the AP, but also for us here at the Gridiron Expert. So we're not going to delay it any further. We've got a lot to break down, a lot of rankings to discuss. So let's go ahead and dive right on into it with our top 10. And it looks drastically different than it did a week ago, where once again we have a brand new number 1 team in the country, the Texas Longhorns. Maybe not completely brand new because they were number 1 for us a couple weeks ago, but they had now dethroned Alabama, who shockingly lost to Vanderbilt, one of the biggest upsets in college football history. Obviously the upset of the day in Week 6. So Texas now moves into that top spot. They were number 2 right behind Alabama. It only makes sense for the Longhorns now to move up to number 1, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, Penn State, and Oregon to round out our top 5. Again, all those teams really taking advantage of the losses of Alabama to Vanderbilt and Tennessee to Arkansas. Those 2 losses really saw a lot of teams take advantage of that and jumping up just because of who was ahead of them. Ohio State up 2 spots from number 4 to number 2 after beating Iowa 35-7. Makes sense there. Georgia moving up 2 spots after defeating Auburn 31-13. Penn State defeating UCLA 27-11. And Oregon defeating Michigan State on Friday night 31-10. Which means we are going to have a top 5 showdown on Saturday as Ohio State travels to take on Oregon in what is by far the game of the day. One of the biggest games of the year, the game of Week 7, Ohio State and Oregon in Eugene. Major stakes when it comes to the Big Ten standings, major stakes when it comes to the college football playoff, and we will be predicting that video for you on Wednesday, predicting that game for you on Wednesday, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But I think the top 5 self-explanatory. Some should say Oregon should be higher, some should say Georgia should be lower, whatever you want to say, but I like the way the top 5 for us shakes up right now. Below them, Miami at number 6, moving up a spot following their crazy 25-point comeback against California, winning that game 39-38. Alabama at number 7 is going to probably trigger a lot of people, but here is why. Look at who's below Alabama. All right, look, I know Alabama's loss to Vanderbilt was inexcusable. They lost 40-35. It was shocking to lose. Lose to any team, but to Vanderbilt? Are you kidding me? Yeah, it was insane, right? It's unbelievable. But look at who's below them. Alabama still owns a win over Georgia. That holds a lot of weight. That is as good of a win as anybody has in the country. Arguably the best win of any team in the country, excluding Vanderbilt's win over Alabama, right? And Vandy obviously isn't going to be ranked. Alabama owns a huge win over what we believe is the number 3 team in the country in Georgia. Do you tell me that Alabama is worse than Clemson, worse than Iowa State, worse than Notre Dame, worse than Ole Miss, LSU, A&M? I don't believe Alabama is worse than any of those teams. I don't believe Alabama has a worse resume than any of those teams. So Alabama loses their top spot. They drop 6 spots in our rankings down to number 7. You could argue 1 extra spot, put them down at number 8, whatever you want to do. But bottom line is, I don't believe Alabama should be outside of the top 10. I don't believe they should be below some of the teams that we do have behind them. Because if you put those teams on a neutral site field right now, I believe Alabama would be favored in that game significantly. I think they'd win that game significantly. I've got the Tide at number 7. I've got Clemson, though, all the way up to number 8. They took a big jump in our rankings, up to number 8. 8 spots up to number 8. So from 16th to 8th, because of a lot of movement ahead of them. It wasn't just Alabama and Tennessee's losing. It was Missouri and Michigan and USC, those guys losing, that really helped some of these teams that are now in the top 10. Clemson moves up. Why? Because they haven't lost since that devastating blowout loss to Georgia in week 1. And what's really impressed me about Clemson is they have looked good, dangerously good, since that game against Georgia. And again, you really can't hold that too much against them, considering how good Georgia is. They have dominated every game they've played, no exception. Florida State 29-13 on the road in Tallahassee, winning by 16 points there and covering, by the way, in our expert picks, one of our best bets. Clemson came through for us, but I like this Tigers team. I love what they're doing. It's them and Miami in the ACC right now, and I feel very confident about staying that. Iowa State. Some think I've got the Cyclones ranked too high. I don't think so. No one's talking about the Cyclones. Look, I know they haven't had the toughest schedule in the country. I know that, things like that. But look, they're undefeated. They're an unbeaten team. and they've allowed a total of 50 points all year. That's an average of just 10 points per game. Their defense is phenomenal. Their offense is criminally underrated. They just beat Baylor 43-21. They have a road win against Iowa. They shut out Houston, which I know isn't saying much, but that Houston team just beat TCU and almost beat Oklahoma on the road. This Iowa State team is a dangerous team, a sneaky good team in the Big 12. I would venture to say they are the best team in the Big 12 as of right now. And I know BYU's there, Kansas State's there, but I like Iowa State a lot. And yeah, I've got it in my top 10. You could say 9's too high. Then put them at number 10. But I believe they should be in the top 10 as of right now. Got Notre Dame rounding it out for them. Notre Dame's resume looks good. Yes, a Northern Illinois loss is bad. Everybody's going to talk about that all year long. But you know what? If the Fighting Irish go undefeated the rest of the way and finish 11-1, that Northern Illinois loss is an afterthought. That Texas A&M win for Notre Dame on the road at College Station is looking better and better each and every week. The Aggies have not lost since that game against Notre Dame, and they have looked very good since that game against Notre Dame, including their 31-point win in College Station against a top 10 team in Missouri. So Missouri loses by 31 to Texas A&M in the same environment. Notre Dame goes on the road and wins by 10. So they've got that win over A&M on the road by double digits. They've got a win against Louisville, who, yes, is now out of the top 25, but still a quality win there. Notre Dame's resume is very, very strong, and I think worthy of being in the top 10. It seems that the Fighting Irish are starting to figure things out. The schedule really isn't that bad down the stretch. Finishing out on a big win streak and making the playoff is not far-fetched at all. So that does round out our top 10. Coming into the second section, we'll go a little faster. Ole Miss up 3 spots to number 11, right on the outside of the top 10. That loss to Kentucky still stinging a little bit. Kentucky maybe not as bad as we thought, but still a bad loss at home, favored by 17 points. The Rebels not in the top 10 yet, but do move up 3 with a big 24-point win against South Carolina. A great bounce back for Lane Kiffin and the Rebels. LSU remains at number 12. They were on a bye this week. They play Ole Miss on Saturday, so we will be breaking that game down for you later this week. Ole Miss and LSU, the winner of that, more than likely going to jump into our top 10 when our next rankings come out on next Monday. A&M. It looks crazy to say we didn't have a team ranked and they jumped from unranked to number 13. They were right on the outside looking in, right? They were right on the fringe of the top 25 for us. Still wasn't completely sold on them. I'm sold on them now. That win against Missouri was very, very impressive. Beating them is one thing. Winning the way they did it by 31 points, 41-10, that's another thing. A&M could be the real deal this year in year one under Mike Elko. I love what I've seen from them, especially defensively. Love what the Aggies are doing. Connor Wigman came back, looked pretty dang solid. A&M is playing fantastic football right now. Again, their only loss is to Notre Dame, and no loss is a great loss or a good loss, but that could be worse, right? It's no Northern Illinois or anything like that. So I like what A&M's doing. They go from unranked for us to number 13. Tennessee down to number 14. Some say, why so low? Why is Tennessee dropping 11? Why is Alabama only dropping 6? Look, that loss to Arkansas was a better team than the record showed, right? The Razorbacks were arguably the best offense that Tennessee had faced all year. But the Volunteers did not look the part of a top 10 team. They did not look the part almost as a top 15 team. Their number one offense in the country that was averaging almost 600 yards per game was held to just 332 yards. Their offensive line couldn't hold up against the Razorbacks' pass rush, there really wasn't much of one all year. The Razorbacks don't have a pass rush, which was a little bit concerning. The Volunteers just couldn't move the ball. It was very, very concerning to see that. And you look at Tennessee's resume, who have they beat? Best win is on the road against a mediocre Oklahoma team who, yes, we do have ranked, but still isn't all that great. So Tennessee is still a top 15 team in our eyes, but there's still a lot of work to be done for the Volunteers after a very, very bad performance. And again, a resume that is a little bit weaker than some of the teams that are ahead of them. BYU up 2 spots to number 15. Again, some of these teams just benefiting from moving up because of the teams that lost ahead of them. BYU up 2 spots in their bye week into the top 15. Kansas State up 2 spots in their bye week, up to number 16. BYU, of course, going to be ahead of them due to winning the head-to-head just a few weeks ago. Boise State up 4 spots into the top 20. Number 17 now for the Broncos, the highest-ranked Group of 5 team for us as of right now. In fact, the only Group of 5 team ranked for us as of right now. The Broncos won 62-30 over Utah State, and Ashton Jeanty, for me, is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. Already has 1,000 rushing yards this season. He is unbelievable. So much fun to watch. And Boise State, right now, if the end season were to end today, would be in the college football playoff. And all I can say is, I wouldn't want to face them. So Boise State up to number 17. Indiana up to number 18. Up 5 spots for us. They're 6-0. Have clinched bowl eligibility in year one under Kurt Cignetti. They are 6-0 following that win over Northwestern, 41-24. Another best bet for us, by the way. We bet Indiana in that game in our expert picks. They covered for us. Best bet's doing very well right now over on the expert picks. So, again, the link for that down in the description below. But love what Kurt Cignetti's doing with the Hoosiers. Their schedule is very favorable. Indiana going 11-1 or even 10-2 is not far-fetched. They are, I can't believe I'm saying this, a playoff contender. Look out for the Hoosiers. Utah was on a bye week. Some other teams had some better wins. Just other shakeups. They didn't really move anywhere. So Utah not getting punished, but not getting rewarded for being on their bye week. They've got an interesting game coming up against Arizona State this weekend. And then Pittsburgh rounding out our top 20. The Panthers joining our top 25. They are undefeated, 5-0. Just beat North Carolina by 10 on the road. That new look offense is going really well for the Panthers right now in the ACC. Again, we said it's really Miami and Clemson's to lose, but a team like SMU would like to have a word with that. A team like Pittsburgh would like to have a word with that. So look out for some of these ACC dark horses looking to make some noise over these next couple of weeks in the second half of the season. But Pittsburgh now into our top 20 with a big-time win over the Tar Heels, and again, 5-0 on the year. Rounding out our top 25, Illinois drops a spot, not because they did anything wrong, just because of the movement around them. They drop a spot in their bye week down to number 21. Oklahoma remains at number 22 off of their bye week, but this week, Red River. We got the Red River Showdown coming up on Saturday. Texas and Oklahoma. We will have our prediction for that coming out here in just a few days. The sooner some would say is too low, I would disagree, but they can prove us all wrong, and they can skyrocket in the rankings if they can take down the new number 1 team in the country on Saturday afternoon. So stay tuned for that. Missouri drops 14 spots. The biggest faller, well, one of them, because Michigan and USC did drop out of our top 25. But Missouri dropping 14 spots after their devastating loss to Texas A&M. The Tigers, I'm still giving the benefit of the doubt. I wasn't impressed with them heading into the A&M game. The Boston College performance wasn't great. The Vanderbilt performance wasn't great, but clearly Vanderbilt, a little bit better than we thought. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, keeping them in the top 25 for now. They should remain in it for at least another week. They should defeat UMass on Saturday. The Tigers, though, still have a lot to figure out if they want to reach that ultimate goal of the college football playoff, which still, despite being number 23, despite that heartbreaking, crushing loss, is still within reach. Rounding out, SMU and Nebraska, 2 new teams to our top 25. SMU beat Louisville on the road, I should add, 34-27. A ranked Louisville team on the road. SMU's looking good, man. They're looking good. Only loss right now is to BYU. That BYU team is looking pretty solid as a top 15 team in our eyes. So watch out. Again, we said SMU is kind of one of those dark horses in the first year in the ACC, and that quarterback switch from Preston Stone to Kevin Jennings working out very well for their offense. Watch out for the Mustangs going forward, and watch out for Nebraska. They won a defensive slugfest, a nasty, ugly game against Rutgers, 14-7, but a win's a win's a win. And Rutgers, a quality football team. That is not a win that you should frown upon, or a win you should be like, wow, we should have blown them out, because Rutgers is a dang good football team. Nebraska 5-1, 1 win away from bowl eligibility. We move them back into our top 25. Only loss at home to Illinois, who we clearly believe is pretty solid, sitting at number 21. So Nebraska in ahead of teams like Michigan and USC, who both fell out of our top 25, ahead of teams like Navy and Army, who are right on the outside looking in of our top 25. Could find themselves in our rankings as early as next week. Stay tuned for that. Love what we're seeing from the military academies. Arkansas, Vanderbilt looking to make some noise as well. A lot of teams on the outside looking in, and I'm sure we'll welcome them to our GE Top 25, a few of them at least, next Monday. But this is where it stands as of right now. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave your rankings down in the comments below. Last week was absolutely insane. This week we've got 3 massive ranked versus ranked matchups. We'll see major shakeups in the rankings once again. And as always, we're anxious to debate you, anxious to hear your thoughts, your comments, your rankings as we continue to progress throughout this college football season. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. Again, home to our expert picks and our best bet section. Do not miss out on that. The link for that down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.